Nice to meet you.
Hi,
Um,
nice to be here.
can you do an introduction of who you are, where you are in the world, and what sewing project you're working on at the moment?
My name's Ella Lambert, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Pachamama Project, which is basically a charity which I built back in the first lockdown to grow a network of volunteers around the world to make reusable sanitary pads like these, which we then distribute to refugees and vulnerable people. So I'm doing that from Essex at the moment, which is where I live with my family. And yeah, this is the sewing project I'm working on. I'm working on making and distributing reusable pads because I can't make literally anything else.
I was gonna
um,
say, have you made anything else recently?
I made like when I first started out, because I started learning to sew so that I could start this project. I had the idea and then borrowed a sewing machine, learned how to sew on YouTube, and then got going. But around that time, I got into sewing for that reason. And I made one skirt and I sewed the zip in the wrong way around. And we say, Lambert never turns back. And I didn't. Instead, I just have to like shimmy my way into the skirt every time I wear
We've all made mistakes like that on a project.
it.
So who else is in the project team?
So we have 5 trustees, including my mum, who is the chair. So about 6 months into the project, it all became a little bit too much when we had thousands of people saying they wanted to get involved. And so my mum joined force, and she does a lot of like the day-to-day packing and sorting. But yeah, we have 5 amazing trustees, including our US ambassador, our partner of the Free Shop Lebanon, Alice, and 2 volunteers who've made about 30,000 pads between them. And then beyond that, we have over 2,500 amazing volunteers who are just working from home or within their community groups, making these pads, giving up a bit of their spare time, using their sewing machines to do something good in the world.
That's amazing. How did the idea come about?
So back in the first lockdown, I was suddenly armed with a load of free time, as a lot of us were. And I started thinking about things that I could do from home to support people around the world. I had planned to go to Colombia that summer to work on the Venezuelan border to work with refugees. Foresaw that that probably wasn't going to happen. But on top of that, I have my own personal reason. Like I have always suffered with debilitating period pain, which meant that when I was younger, I used to have to miss school every single month. I used to have to cancel plans last minute, miss out on the same opportunities as my brothers simply because I have a period. And so, although I've always been super lucky and always been in a position where I could afford sanitary products, I do know what it's like to miss out on those important opportunities and experience that shame and stigma that comes with periods that stops you being able to ask for help or talk to people about it. And so, yeah, when I first heard about period poverty, I really resonated with it in that way and really wanted to help people who were missing out on important stuff because of their period as well.
Lovely. Can you define what period poverty is?
Period poverty is the inability to access sanitary products, and that may be due to financial constraints, or that may be because, for example, people on the move who are moving from one place to another might not be able to, access them from a charity or from the health service, whatever that may be. But what that really means, and what I, want to get through to people, is that you have people living in tents, you have people who are in bomb shelters, who are fleeing persecution, war, and other horrendous things, who already have so many challenges, who on top of that leak through their clothes and have to deal with the stigma and embarrassment that comes with that. You have people who are missing out on work or missing out on school simply because they have a period. And I just don't think that's something that anyone should have to deal with. We've spoken to people who, bled through their clothes while sleeping on the metro floor as they fled Ukraine, or people who were having to cut up their children's perfectly usable clothes to use as period products. And people who are using banana leaves, who are using socks, who are using scraps of material, and in turn getting infections, experiencing discomfort and experiencing shame. And our pads last 3 to 5 years, so they really take this problem away from people for the foreseeable future.
So you box them up at your headquarters. Where do they go from there?
So our volunteers make the pads from their respective either homes or community centres, schools, whatever that may be. They then ship them off to their ambassadors. That may be us in Essex, it may be our ambassador in Bristol, ambassador in Italy, France, the US, etc. And then they get shipped off to our partners, who then do the distributions. So we like to work with organisations which are mostly community-led, so they're being distributed by the people who are from that community, who speak the language, who have a really good understanding of the needs of that community. So it's not just me turning up in a random place and saying, I've got some reusable pads. I don't think that would be helpful. And so we work with some really amazing partners. We work with organisations in 10 countries, including Uganda, Pakistan, Lebanon, Turkey, Greece, the US, here in the UK. I could go on, but we work with really fantastic organisations that have such an incredible understanding of the needs of the community, and that's how we know that the pads are really getting to the people that need them the most, and the people who have the washing facilities to use them as well.
That's so good. So how can anyone get involved as a volunteer for Pachamama?
If you would like to get involved with the Pachamama Project, all you need is access to a sewing machine and a bit of free time to access this completely zero commitment project. Just send us an email at thepachamamaproject@outlook.com and we will send you everything you need to get started. So we provide a video tutorial, picture instructions, lots of information on how to access materials for free. And if you can't do that, then we can send you materials as well if you're based in the UK. And you'll suddenly have access to this incredible community of amazing, lovely, supportive women and men who are all making pads, and, you know, cheering each other along the way as well.
Yeah, so on the email you send, you get a link to the Facebook group, and having been on there, it is really nice. I posted
It's really nice, isn't
they
it?
set up ready to go, and just the comments and stuff. It's just, yeah, and it's really nice
Yeah,
to
and it means that there
collaborate.
are lots of volunteers who've been with us for like three or so years now, and so they know everything there is to know about making the pad. So if you have any queries, obviously you can pop us an email and you'll get, you know, an answer back within the day. But also you can just put a message on the Facebook group, and you'll have loads of people giving, you know, their advice, and having this collaborative effort. And we have regional WhatsApp groups as well. So if people would like to be part of those, they can be on their regional chat, and that's created amazing stuff. Like we've had lots of meetups, people have become friends through the project. And now people often like meet up to even do their prep work or make pads together. Or they pair up with someone who, you know, does the cam snaps because they don't like sewing, but they're happy to put the buttons on for people whose hands aren't up for the task. So yeah, you end up getting every like friend and family member involved, I think.
I added the poppers on, sat in front of the TV one night, just going through it on a little process line, doing it.
Yeah, my granddad does a lot of ours. He adds the snaps onto a lot of the Essex-based Pachamama pads.
Is everyone in the family involved on the production line?
Whether they like it or not, yeah, in one way or another, either involved in like shipping or packing, or my younger brother has just gotten his university to choose Pachamama as the charity they're supporting. And even when we first started out, the first like funding that we got to do the first shipping was my younger brother, who was 16 at the time, and all his mates doing a fun run to raise money for period poverty, which I thought was pretty incredible at the time, seeing these teenage boys who'd never heard anything about it, you know, getting involved. So yeah, every family member, every neighbor, everyone in like in a, you know, whatever radius is definitely involved in this project.
Wonderful. And so when someone starts sewing, is there any advice or definite no-nos when it comes to making the sanitary pads?
So the pads are made of one layer of cotton or PUL, like 2 out of every 8 pads have a layer of PUL, which means that's super waterproof, but not all our volunteers have to make those. Inside, there's a layer or 2 of towel, and then a layer of fleece, and then the outside layer is anti-pill fleece as well. Our big no-nos are not to use pale colours, just because we like them to be super stain resistant, and just, you know, with this taboo subject, it's just important that, you know, you can't necessarily see the blood. Yeah, so we use this material because it's anti-staining. Anti-pill fleece doesn't stain. And then we just like to choose dark colours for the backing layer. Inside, you can use used towels as long as they've still got some life in them and they've had a good wash. And this layer can also be recycled. We like to make them as sustainable as possible. So the only layer which actually has to be new is this part which touches the skin. And as I said, upon request, that can be provided.
And I've seen in the, going back to the Facebook group, all kinds of patterns being used. So I've had this in my collection for years, but it's perfect, it's a little bit fun, but I think there's been some really comical frog fabric popping up on there recently.
Yeah, I love it how I think people really take pride in making their pads and they like to like go to charity shops and find different materials or like order stuff online or source stuff from their local community. And I think that's really important because with a subject which is normally so taboo and so stigmatized and especially in some of the communities where we work, like there will be women and girls who've never had a conversation about periods before, even with their family members. So to suddenly turn it into what would normally be a scary conversation in a dark room in hushed tones to something which is really vibrant and fun and pretty, there's literally something for everyone. And it just injects some joy into it and makes something which would normally be scary actually quite fun. And you see people like swapping pads and like choosing which ones they want. And I think it's something which was like a happy accident of this project, but I think that it's really special.
Yeah, definitely. And then the bags as well. So I've got a few bags on them. Go. Oh no,
Yeah.
oh nice. Yeah, I did some good scrap busting. All of this has been really good scrap busting for me. Um, any do's and don'ts for making the bag?
We have our minimum size requirements. I forget what they are, but they're all on all our instructions. But apart from that, honestly, like we say, as long as it's got a drawstring in it or some sort of like strap, a bag's a bag. And we encourage people to make them out of their scraps, as you have done there. Not all our volunteers make bags. Some just make pads. Some just make bags, which is nice because I mean, it means that there's something for everyone. And volunteers who don't necessarily think they're up for the task of making pads can still get involved and make the bags. And those who are really on a roll with the pads don't necessarily need to make the bags. But yeah, lots of our volunteers make both, and it's really up to every person.
And if you're lacking in one more than the other, do you do shout outs if you need more bags, if you're lacking in bags?
We've never been in that situation
Good.
as now, but yeah, we would do, and we have so many volunteers who have really been, with us for quite a while now and are really invested. And if we were suddenly like, oh my goodness, like we need to get, some pads or some bags in the door, they would get to work. Um, I mean, we do get the most incredible reactions sometimes, like when the Ukraine war kicked off. I think everyone was in complete shock, and every volunteer was contacting me saying, "What can we do? How can we help?" And so I went to Poland actually really soon after to go work on the border and see actually if we could help because I didn't want to sort of add to the noise if it wasn't going to be useful. And through that, we started a partnership with a hospital in East Ukraine and got pads to women there to be used as postpartum pads. Now, at that time, because no one foresaw the war, we didn't have any pads in the house. Like we just sent off a whole container to Lebanon and had absolutely zero stock left. But I put a message on the Facebook saying, look, we've got this partnership. In a couple of months, we want to send 16,000 pads to 2,000 women. Can we do it? And within 3 months, we had that and more. So I think, when there's a will, there's a way. And there was no pressure. It's always zero commitment and it's always alongside everybody's own like busy lives and busy schedules and own difficulties and challenges. But there's a lot of us. So when we're in a sticky situation like that, we tend to see people rise to the occasion, which is really lovely.
That's so lovely to be part of that community as well, because you don't always see kind of behind the scenes and how involved people are getting. Because I've only just learnt about you, so yeah, it's so nice to be part of it now and knowing.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you are. Yeah. Well, I think I obviously started this project to tackle period poverty, not necessarily to create a community organization, but that has happened anyway. And it's one of the most rewarding parts, seeing all these amazing people sort of come together for a common good. And it's done a huge amount for a lot of our volunteers as well. Like many of our volunteers have chronic illnesses, many of them have fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue. And being able to be involved in a project which is zero commitment is brings so much purpose because there are so many people who, really want to get involved with something, really want to be part of a community, but they can't attend something every single week because they don't know with their health whether they're going to be able to do that or not. So I think it's also become a really important part of a lot of our volunteers' lives as well. I mean, we have volunteers of all sorts. We have from like literally children who are doing it with their mums and like primary school groups, all the way through to like elderly groups in church groups, and everything in between. But yeah, I think it's been really important for a lot of them as well.
It's wonderful to have that social impact, not just on the receivers of the pads. That's so heartwarming.
Yeah.
If someone has their own template, because you provide a template and you also mentioned the sizing of minimum, but are they okay, is volunteers okay to use their own kind of pattern if they have one?
We always say to people to send a few first, anyway, even if you're using our templates, just so that we can give you some feedback and check you're on the right track before you go and make hundreds of thousands. We have our approved pattern because we rarely get a bad one through the door. Even the most beginner sewers can make these, and they're made with that in mind. So I would just say, ideally use our pattern, but if you really, are big on doing your own, then just send us a few first and make sure that we're able to give you some feedback. The important thing is the materials and the layers and making sure that they are the right level of absorbency. But all the pads are quality checked, so you will get feedback.
Is there anything within the project that's really been impactful and is going to stay with you other than all the social connections?
Definitely. I think our work in Uganda really has a special place in my heart. As I said, I started this project because of my own experience with period pain and how I used to have to miss school every single month. And I started this project focusing on refugees and asylum seekers because they are probably the most vulnerable in society, the most likely to experience period poverty just as people on the move. But I got contacted by an organization in Uganda saying that there were these schoolgirls who they'd built these schools and they were sponsoring girls to go to the schools, but every single month girls weren't going in, and it was because of period poverty. And so when I heard this, with my own experience, I couldn't not do something. And so every year since then, so we're now 3 years running, we've sent pads for 500 schoolgirls. And I'm really, really pleased to say that what was a 60% absentee rating amongst these students every single month due to their period is now a 0% absentee rating because they all have reusable pads and none of them are experiencing period poverty anymore. And I think that's really special. And I think people forget that period poverty has such a major impact on women and girls' lives, not just in terms of the initial factors of, the discomfort and infections and shame and everything that comes with that, but long term, like missing out on school and work and opportunities and the knock-on effect that has for communities and the knock-on effect that it will have for their daughters as well and the whole community as a whole. So being able to eradicate that for that community is really, really special.
I can see why that's close to your heart. That's brilliant work. Are there any other ways other than sewing? Are there other ways that people can get involved?
Yeah, we like people to be involved in whatever way that they can or feel they want to. So if you get in touch, you can either bring your own ideas to the table, or you can help us with fundraising, you can help us with outreach, getting more volunteers involved. You can help us by contacting fabric companies and badgering them to give us their offcuts, by getting university societies involved, contacting schools and asking them to, start a club, helping us raise awareness and just sharing our Instagram and social media posts. There's so many ways that you can be involved in this project. And as I said, if you don't want to sew, but you want to be involved in the production line, then you can easily be linked up with people in your area so that you can either add the snaps or do the cutting out for them and helping them with their preparation. So there's lots of different ways that people can be involved in this project.
I think I saw that there's someone raising money at the moment. Was it an aeroplane jump that they're doing?
Yeah, so the amazing Helen, who's just turned 70, is literally jumping out of a plane for us. She said to us, I'll do anything for Pachamama. We said, really? No, I'm kidding. She brought the idea to us, but I think it's amazing. So she's doing a skydive this year and she's raising money
She's
using
doing
that.
really well, I think I saw as well.
Yeah, she had a target of £500 initially and she met it and more in a day. So she's now put it up to 1,000, and obviously anything that we get is absolutely incredible, but £5 will basically sort a person out for the foreseeable future in terms of getting a pack of pads for the next 5 years at least. So every little really does make such a huge difference.
Amazing. Well done, Helen.
Yeah, well done, Helen.
So finally, can you tell us where we can find you on social media and how to contact you? Where can we find out more?
Yes, if you'd like to contact us, then please email us at thepachamamaproject@outlook.com. Pachamama is spelled Pachamama. And anywhere on social media, so that's Twitter or X, Instagram or Facebook, you can find us at The Pacha Project. So the Pacha Project.
And where does the name come from?
Pachamama is the goddess of menstruation and basically Mother Earth for the people of the Andes in Latin America. And I studied Spanish and was studying away when I came up with the project and got started. And yeah, it just really resonated with me. And I think it's a really nice word. And I like that we can call our volunteers like the Pachamamas and Pachapapas.
Well, thank you very much for sharing everything with us. And
Thank you so much for getting involved and for helping us get other people involved as well. It's really lovely.
thanks.
Thank you. Bye.